Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. On this episode, Nick Ryder passes along some fundamental advice he's gathered as a musician, and he and I share some stories from the road. So yeah, hope you've been enjoying this podcast. If you do, please leave a rating or review wherever you're listening right now, or simply tell a friend. It would really help a lot, and it's super appreciated. Thanks so much. Nick Ryder, I wanted to ask you if there is, been someone, whether it's, another drummer or, someone that you played a show with, you've recorded with several different people, or even just like a mentor or, other artists that you've like looked up to. Have they shared a piece of advice that stuck with you that you would want to, pass along from them?
Well, I definitely learned a lot of stuff. That was a question, like when I saw it on the thing, it was the hardest for me to think of because there was almost too many. But to be honest, again, I kind of come back to when Chris was in the band, like he had a very different attitude about dealing with things than I did. And he kind of did instill me to not put up with the kind of stuff that I'd used to put up with, or just like know your worth, know who you are, and know that if you really feel like you shouldn't be putting up with something, then don't put up with it. Like, because I've been in a million of those situations, and it's part of why, like, some people would see the things that happen to our band or the types of things that happen at gigs and be like, why does this happen? It's like, well, because it's always happened. And it's like, that ends now. Yeah. So I do think that was a really good thing about him, is he kind of helped me have a little more of an attitude where I needed one. Because, I don't know, if you can, again, you don't have to push back super hard sometimes, but just by pushing back a little bit, you can get, sometimes it makes people realize, like, it makes them take a step back and hang on, I should be more respectful.
Okay.
And typically, like, I don't know, I wish I had been a bit of more of that a lot sooner. Because, I still think I have that mentality, and it's part of why nowadays it's like, I almost don't even have it in me to, I don't even have like the energy to do anything with the band I don't feel like doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully some of that stuff just comes from, confidence in what you're doing. And also just like time. I know that's what it's been for me. It's like the time away from other things or moving gear around. I've just become older, so I'm just like, I need that. It seems to be worth me lugging stuff up and down stairs. It's
true. I mean, I had a time where my neck was really bad, and my cousin was filling in the drums, and he carried all my gear because, like, I couldn't even carry it at the time. So it was kind of like, again, it was something I appreciated.
And it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it feels. It feels like it's a major shift because I guess I don't know the full details of what you're talking about. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, but I know for me, it's like, I just would do everything, or like when we were touring, it'd be like, cool, we got offered this show in Ohio and we'd like drive there, and it'd be like, oh,
and where
that
were
was
you
cool. We did that,
happened?
but it's like, why did we just drive to Ohio, or like we play a show in Maine on a work night and drive home at like 4 a.m. and go to work the next day, and I would just be like, this doesn't really make any logical sense, but it was just like what we did,
say no.
Or just be like, could we do a different night? Like, we definitely want to do this, but like, we figure something else out.
We played in Nashville and we had a day off, and we were just going to hang out in Memphis, but then we got a call to play in Dallas that night. And it was literally like, well, it's about a 6-hour drive. Like, what time do you want us on? It was like, well, they want us on in like 7.5 hours. So we got to get going right now. And it was like, it never crossed our mind to not drive from Memphis to Dallas at the spur of a moment to play a show.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
We were going to be in Texas the day after anyway, but it was kind of like I don't know. again, nowadays, some people are like, do you want to play a show? And I'm like, is there a parking lot? I'm like, I don't even think I can play a show if there isn't parking right next to the venue. And that's the thing is most venues don't have that.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere.
I love that does,
but that's why I've gotten used to it around here.
That's what's in your requirements. So, like a lot of bands have like, a certain type of, beer or, catering. And you're like, do you have a parking lot? Like how?
Well, it is. I didn't really I say Providence now is the easy city because when you go and tour in other cities, you're like, whoa, it's not even easy to park, let alone find the venue. It's like usually you're trying to park a half a mile away from some place that you got to play on the second floor.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is nuts.
Like playing shows in Manhattan will like wear you out.
I don't even think I would do it again. As much as it was playing in Manhattan, it was like, dude, if we weren't a two-piece, we're lucky all of our gear fit on our hand cart because it was like we have about a half a mile walk to the venue, but we have all of the gear at once because there's only two of us.
Like I have some good stories from there, people I've met and stuff, but just like the logistics of doing that was not ever fun and easy, like I actually had like a panic attack once because we were stuck in so much traffic trying to get to a show. And just like we're not going to make it, and we've been sitting in traffic for like it was like literally hours in Connecticut, and it was stupid, but yeah, no, you're right with all of that stuff, and it's important. Unfortunately, some of that stuff comes from age and being a little bit more seasoned, and I don't know. I mean, I can't go back in time, but I did have a lot of that drive of and being young and just wanting to play shows and thinking that next one was, you never know what it's going to be. Like just a lot of that hope was there. And I'm not saying that I'm not like full of hope now, but I was just like, oh, maybe that next show, I never knew who I'm going to meet there, or maybe that's going to be that show that's going to break us to something else, or and sometimes it would happen, a lot of times it didn't, but it kind of gets to a point where it needs to just be a little bit more balanced, I guess,
or like at least if you have that experience, you can kind of like more and more. That's the thing is like you can look at you guys want to play this show, and you can see the flyer and almost know whether or not it's worth your time to really be there. And not that everything goes just like that. There's so many factors, but when you've been around long enough, a lot of that silly hope flies right out the window when you're like, I don't know, look at these bands' names. Like, do you think we're going to have a good time playing with these people? Like, and not even to be judgmental, but sometimes like you can look at a flyer sometimes and just by the way it's designed and the shapes of the band logos, you can tell how serious some of these people are or how completely not serious they are. And that's part of the thing is like, yo, if you want me to drive 2 hours to headline over a bunch of guys that aren't even serious, I don't think I want to anymore.
Yeah.
But if it's like you guys, because again, like sometimes when you're the veteran band, that's all people need you to be. Like, and you get sick of like showing up and headlining every show for a bunch of people just because they need a closing act. And different things are like, or especially people hate when you're like, people invite you on a show and you tell them how maybe they could make it a little better. Maybe it does make things easier. Or just like, there's a lot of that, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of also addressing it now, but like the next question that I always ask here in this segment is, again, from your own experience of writing albums, leading this band for so long, playing in other bands as well, releasing music, putting out vinyl. Is there some advice that you've learned along the line that you would then, kind of pass along from your own, like personal experience of doing it?
Well, the biggest thing I've come back to sometimes is because I notice other musicians would say, how did you do this? Or how did you get on this label or this compilation release? Or how did you get on this station? I was like, I asked them. And like, and as crazy as it sounds, like that's my biggest piece of advice is like, if you want something, maybe just ask for it. Like it sounds crazy, but any time in life, like nobody gives you anything if you don't ask for it. And I know that sounds so basic, and I think bands think that they have to just be subservient. But like, again, it goes to show. So the girl you had on from Gym Shorts, like she said the same thing. Like I know so many people, they sit around just waiting for stuff to happen. And it's like, you kind of got to make some of it happen. And I'm like, yeah. And the first thing you can do is just ask for things you want, or ask to be a part of something, ask people for help. Like straight up, I only got to make this record because I asked Dylan and I asked George, and I asked them if they could do all the things I couldn't do. Like right now. And it's like, and they did them, and they had fun, and it forms a new, like, again, sometimes you can get a lot of places in life just by the worst thing someone says is no. And then at least you made an effort, because I've said, like, there's a lot of people I know, like, I don't know how you work with labels or this and that. It's like, you literally have to ask. Or it's like, I've joked around, like, I've been turned down by more labels than most people I know have ever applied to. And they're like, well, why is that? And I'm like, because I asked a lot of them. Yeah. Like, because I messaged all of them. Like, again, nothing is really going to happen if you don't just put it out there into the world that you kind of want that. And it's like, I think if you're reasonable, like, I'm not saying be a jerk or expect to get what you want, but ask for what you want. And you'd be shocked at how many people will give you something or point you in the right direction. Because like, it's literally the only way I've done 99% of anything is by asking some, like, yo, I don't know what to do. Like, when I've had to put that vinyl record out, I had no clue what I was doing. I asked a bunch of people to help me. It was like, I asked guys who ran record labels, and they didn't act like I was some nuisance. And what's crazy too is I asked some of them if they wanted to put it out. It was like, literally, I got this record. Like, do you want to put it out? I'm asking you. It's like, well, no, but maybe you could talk to this guy. And it's like, I'll talk to that guy, dude. Thanks. Like, because most of them will say something like that.
No, exactly.
But you do gotta, like, ask the right people. Like, ask people who, like, I always try to engage with other bands and musicians and record labels whose output I already appreciate. So that kind of puts you, when they think you're not some random dude hitting them up like, yo, give me a fucking career, give me a future. It's more like, hey, I really respect what you guys are doing. Is there any chance we could work together? And it might be a maybe or a no, but a lot of the times it leads to something different.
Yeah. I mean, even just from my own personal experience, and, like, I am very small, compared to a lot of other people in this, media world or whatever, but there's people that reach out and ask for me to do interviews or to, put out releases and stuff. And, I listen to everything. I try to respond to everything, and I appreciate everyone reaching out. But yeah, from my experience, like, it does help out a lot if you actually, like, engage with me outside of that. Like, if you like a post every once in a while, like, send me a message outside of that ask, or just, like, say hi to me at a show. I'm usually out. Just respond to something, like, that stuff can actually go, like, a long way. And, and even if I haven't got to people that have asked to do an interview, like, I promise I'm going to do my best, for people that have done that and have kind of built up a relationship. And, I really do try to do what I can to help people out. But yeah, there will be those times of like, hey man, I want to be on your podcast. I was like, okay, you've never talked to me before that. You have, like,
have they even heard it, or they just like, this is
exactly.
So
exactly. So like, like, I'm, again, thank you for finding me, but, yeah, it does go a long way, again, if you just comment on something or just like other posts or, do all those other things, and like, kind of what comes to mind with what you're talking about of like playing some of these shows, it might be different for you, but I know for me, like, I look at them as like, I want to play shows with people that I want to play shows with, like, I look at it and be like, oh, I just kind of want to play this because I want to hang out with some people, or like, I want to build up a relationship with some people. Like, so, I've played some bad shows, like, where there's no one there, but I've also played really bad shows where there were people there, but the other bands just were like not engaging at all. Like, they were just into their own set. They were like ready to leave right after.
What makes a good show
I mean,
is
and again, that's fine, but I wanted to like hang out. I wanted to like maybe come back and play another show or trade shows or like build up the scene. Like that's the stuff that like I really like was striving for, you know? So like I don't know, just that connection. I think that's what I really look for in music. So it's to me it's been disappointing, or just like not even disappointing, but like just kind of upsetting. Be like, oh, we went and played the show in Boston. None of the other bands like watched us. None of the other bands talked to us. Like whatever, you know, like we had some people that were there. We sold some stuff. It wasn't like the fans were bad, but it was just like, I kind of wish that the other bands like hung out, you know?
Yeah.
And again, like I've also played with like bigger, like, yeah, I've played with some bigger bands and some of them have been like super cool, you know, and inspiring. And some of it is just that, you know, like, and I can see how some of these people have got to their level just by being, aware of how those like quote unquote like little things really matter, you know, like it's listening to someone and giving those some attention, responding to an email, watching their set. It just I can be like, oh, that's why you're a legend now. That's why you've touched so many people with your music and you know inspired them, is because you've just been like a good person and not like full of like ego, you know. So or whatever else it is. But yeah, that just kind of came to mind as well of, you know, what I'm looking at those things of like, oh yeah, I mean, this just looks like some cool people I just kind of want to hang out with, you know, like I hope we get to do shows, you know, like just because I just want to hang out with you, you know, so like.
Well, when you don't meet those people, like you kind of reminded me of something else with the question before it, like when we did a gig in Texas and there was like, it seemed like the bands were all sick and it seemed like it was going to be good. And it was like St. Patty's Day and it was brutal music and it was not really where the people wanted to be in this part of the building.
Yeah.
So you end up with like we'd come a long way to do that type of a show. And there was I don't know, we were kind of dejected for a bit because it's like, we got to go on at midnight in Texas and there's not going to be anybody.
Yeah.
But this industrial band that was playing before us, they were called Torque Order. And we also played a show with one of the bands there was this band Sleaze, and their singer was Doyle from the Misfits' son. Like, it was like, that's what I mean. Okay. Like, some of the stuff seemed legit. So why wasn't there a show? But it was just, we were headlining and I was outside kind of smoking a blunt, looked bummed or whatever. And the singer of the band before us was just chatting and being nice. Like he was just came up to me and he seemed really excited to play this place. And I was like, why? But that's like the attitude. But like he did kind of say like, what kind of music you play? And I went, I just remember like, I don't know, man, we're kind of like blues rock. Like I gave some, whatever I said to him probably just seemed very self-deprecating. But anyway, like we went in and did our set, and for some reason, like people started coming in from the other side of the building, and the bands that were like getting ready to leave all came back, and all kind of like it went from like you start playing and there's nobody there to as you're playing, it's like, okay, now we kind of got something.
Yeah.
And it turned into like a really good night. And it's just that guy, that singer, he came up to me after it, and like maybe that's the piece of advice I should have thought. He'd said, hey man, don't ever sell yourself as short as you sold it to me ever again. He's like, I thought you like with the show you guys just played, the way you talked about your music before you played, like that wasn't even the same thing. Like you should have been like, we're a fucking kick-ass rock and roll band. We're gonna like, he just was really, but all the bands were like him and his band members were still there, and they were just so blown away by how he like these guys came from Massachusetts and sounded like that. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even really feel like, you know, I just seem like, I don't know that like, it did go to show like, yeah, don't sell yourself short, man. Like you're not here for no reason, maybe. And like, again, if you sell yourself short, then yeah, maybe someone leaves. Because if someone's like, oh, what kind of band? I don't know, man. Like they'd be like, oh, well, I don't want to stick around to see that band that doesn't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Like there does need to be, and it is like a fine line of having, you know, confidence in what you do and coming off as like a cocky person, you know? So it's like, it's been hard for me to like say those things. So yeah, I've had to do it like more based on, facts of like things that I've done, I guess be like, I don't know, if people like what I do, I'm like you again. It's like that type of stuff. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've done this stuff. I've opened for these people, like my favorite drummer said that I'm a good drummer. So I guess I must be a good drummer, like,
I think
stuff like that,
so too much between, I don't know. I've been described as being either crazy overconfident or like the opposite with having almost no middle ground, because like people tell me I'm cocky all the time. People tell me I'm like wicked full of myself, and it probably seems that way because my band is like all about me, but I never really wanted it to be.
Yeah, no,
that's
exactly.
kind of what I've thought. Like, I go through periods where I'm extremely meek, and being meek doesn't get you anywhere. It just doesn't. And then you turn on the switch and become the exact opposite. Yeah. And then it becomes like, hey man, like, stop fucking talking like that all the time. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to be? Like, it's hard to be in the middle. Yeah. But like, that's kind of the thing is like, I don't know. The only difference between confidence and arrogance is experience. That's it. Yeah. Like, but you'll never convince somebody that doesn't, like, it's going to sound how it sounds to anybody. Because, like, I don't know. This is what people who play with me tell me. So it's like, they probably know me better than some people. But it is weird when some people say, you seem like the most self-deprecating musician I know. And I'm like, people tell me I'm like the cockiest musician they know. Well, I don't know which one it is. Yeah. Like, I really don't. Because I do say things like, oh, are you excited to go to the studio tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fucking do all these parts in like one take. It's like, I'm gonna be home early. Yeah. And then it becomes like,
you cocky son of a bitch.
but that's what I'm kind of telling myself to make it
exactly.
a reality. Like, because I used to think,
it's like the sports mentality where you're gonna be like, like you don't want to go out there as an athlete and be like, maybe I'll catch the ball. You're like, no, I'm gonna fucking score a ton of touchdowns and I'm gonna be the best athlete ever. And you're like, you're not, like have you seen other people? But, what's that?
I fought for a bit, and that's like what I was joking. I was like, I couldn't not do the album because I was already in training for it. Like, I'd been in training for this album, but you kind of approach it like the day comes when you're supposed to show up and do the thing, and you're not supposed to lose at it. Like,
also, you kind of had that kind of like competitive attitude, and just looked at it in that way of like.
Well, I tried to have it because I'm almost uncompetitive by nature, which is weird because, again, it conflicts with me being kind of, I don't know, it messes with my confidence because I'm also that guy that, like, I'm not really jealous and I'm not competitive, but I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, you want to go do this with this person instead? Like, fine. I'm not going to try to keep you here. Like, but I'll just go do another thing. And like, that's kind of a different way of, I don't know, that's not necessarily always the right way of dealing with something either. Or like, I don't know, like being out at a club or trying to talk to somebody and there's other people talking to this person. I'm usually just like, yeah, I'll let them talk to him. I don't really feel like it that much. It's not really worth competing. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It's hard for me to have, it's part of why I used to put up with a lot of things. That's part of why my personality veers so much back. And like, I'm constantly trying to find the middle ground because I'm like, being here doesn't work and being here doesn't work. But I usually get here because I was here. Yeah. And it's like being meek gets you stepped on, and then being the opposite makes you kind of like a macho jerk. And you kind of have to be a little of both sometimes, especially if like, I've told people too, like, strength in numbers is real. Be in a 2-man band and then tell me strength in numbers isn't real. When a bunch of guys back you into a corner and make you agree with something because there's not enough of you, maybe you'll know more what I'm talking about. Because like that shit happened to me. Like, I've been mugged at shows I played because there wasn't enough of me. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's what I mean is there'll be like, there's different things. Like, you want to take a pay cut tonight because you didn't have enough people? Like, well, do I have enough people to convince you not to give me a pay cut? Like,
like what's going to happen? Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, I've played a lot of shows where we were the band on the other stage and there was only one band on the other stage and it was us. Or like, hey, do you want that? So that's another thing is like, there was a point where Chris was in the band and we got asked to do a show and they wanted us to play in like the parking lot. and the other bands were not going to play in the parking lot. And I was like, no, I want to play on the stage with the other bands. And it was like, well, you used to say yes. And it was like, yeah. And that's why I used to play in the fucking parking lot while the show was happening inside. Or like, I don't know. I've done a lot of shows that made very little sense as to why what happened to us didn't apply to the other bands. For a long time, I used to think I had stipulations that other groups. I've done shows in Providence where I was asked to not use drums, but the other bands had drums. Does that ever happen to you? Like, ever? My band has fucking drums, and I had to do shows without drums because they didn't want me to have them. Like, I can't really explain why. Like, but that was the whole thing. Is it was like, and I did a quiet show, and they kept asking me to not get louder. Like, it kept being like, "Yo, people are getting up and dancing. You got to cool it out." And it was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, exactly. Like these are my songs.
You
like
told me I can't use drums because, like, that's what you realize is like, okay, the band didn't want me to use drums because they were worried people were gonna dance for me and not dance for them. What?
Yeah.
But that same show, they had me as the closing act too. They had me as the opening act and the closing act, and they almost cut my whole second set because I riled people up too much. I don't know. That's what I mean is like these are things that happen to me at gigs in Providence at clubs that we all play at. And I'm like, I could tell a million stories about things club owners asked me to do, and they didn't ask other people to do them that night, but they asked me, and I used to say fucking yes, and now I'm like, no. Like, I'm sorry. Like that. So that was the thing. They tried to cut that set, and I was like, yo, you told me to get ready for a second set. I stayed late. It's like 12:45 and I'm supposed to go on again. I'm going on again. Like, I'm going on again. I literally don't care that you're telling me that I'm not playing again. I am, because I'm here. Yeah. And I'm going to go up and do it. And that was the weird thing is like, they were like, okay. It was like, geez, I've never had to tell, like, have you ever had a club cut your set just cause, even though you're there?
Unfortunately, I've had some weird shit happen like that. Yeah, so
no, it's true. It probably happens a lot. Like, I don't know.
But your point though is taken that it is not cool.
Got my second set. This shit does happen. Shows get shut down and stuff like that. I don't know, stuff like that. Yeah. I've had the cops go up during my set and shut me down, but they just wait and start it up again. And it's like, how come they only come when I'm playing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think all this stuff makes sense. I think we actually covered a lot of advice.
Yeah, too much sound advice. I like the sound advice part, though. That is the thing I like listening when you do it, because, it's usually somebody I've played a show with or seen a show of theirs, and hearing them talk about it is like, that's how you learn.
Yeah. And then again, just like the last question, we can kind of maybe like quickly address it. Just, like what inspires you, to keep doing this stuff? I mean, is it just that you need to, or is there, certain thing, or just,
there's a lot of things. Yeah. And a lot of them aren't necessarily have to do with music. That's what I tell people is a lot of my biggest inspirations are non-musical, whether it's like specifically on my music, like comic books, video games, movies, things like that, find ways to influence the songs, even if they didn't have a musical input on it. But not even just that, like life itself. Like, it sounds silly, but like part of why I did this band was because I wanted to be in a band again. I wanted to like have friends around me in a social life, and it's given me that and taken it away a bunch of times. But it is part of the thing that's been like, I don't think I would have been as interesting a person or has met as many interesting people had I not done what I do. And when I take steps back from it, I'm like, man, the way some people live is so fucking boring. It's like in Attleboro, they think Providence is a million miles away. Like, nobody in Attleboro goes to Providence, and there's no music scene in Attleboro, but it just goes to show like it's not even far. But to and for those that are another planet.
For those that are listening that may not know, Attleboro is probably 10 minutes from Providence.
It used to take me 22 minutes on the highway.
20. Okay, so 20 minutes. Like, all right, yeah.
29 because I'm in Norton, but that's
okay, but it's it's pretty close. Like depending, a lot of it is traffic. But it's probably just a handful of miles. It's not very far. So that those that may not know the vicinity of how close Attleboro is, it's right on the Rhode Island line,
Attleboro probably inspired me more than a lot of things, just for like, I don't really want to be here. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of where I'm at. And that is a crazy thing, it's why I got into metal and music so young, because you could go one town over and it was like another planet with people that are here for something that nobody is into. Yeah. And like, why, you know what I mean? You got to go out and find that stuff sometime.
Yeah. You're right, man. It's cool. And it's really nice to connect with you about this stuff and identify with you. And I appreciate you sharing it. I'm glad that I got to hear this and, get to share everything you just spoke about with the listeners. So thanks so much, Nick.
Too, because you had a lot of stuff too.
Cool.
We all have experiences to learn from each other.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening. As you just heard, Nick talked quite a bit about his experience performing live, so I wanted to share a track of Adapter playing at the Parlour back in February of 2019. The song is Coffin Shaker from their album No Comfort, and I hope you enjoy.
Romance. I kill myself, yeah, just for you. Oh, I do myself now, baby, and I want you ask me to, you ask me to. Oh, baby, won't you ask me to? Side, I'll be right here. Tell me what